Okay, everybody, good afternoon. If you can just start typing into your chat box and just make sure that you hear the audio, we would appreciate that. Lori will take a look to make sure that people can hear us well as we get started here at the 2 o'clock hour. Lori, are people clicking on the box and people are hearing us okay?
No, my end still says start broadcast.
Good.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everybody. As we get started here at the 2 o'clock hour on our snow presentation today, building a strong management mindset for snow operations. If we could just do a sound check, if everybody can just click into their chat box and just say that you can hear me okay and let Lori know that the sound's good, I appreciate that very much. Good. And everybody could see the screen okay also? If you just say you can see the screen, then we'll be good to go. Good to go. That's what we like to hear. We have 11 people on. We signed up 52 people for this webinar today, which is actually a little bit higher than our last session, so we're excited. We'll give everybody a few minutes to get logged on. We ran a little bit long last week. We know that time is sensitive, so we'll give it to maybe another 8-10 minutes to get people logged on, and then we'll get into it. I hope everybody's having a fantastic day today. Guess we'll make some small talk while we're waiting. In the chat box, how many people are actually in the snow planning mode at this time? If you can just put in there and say, yes, we're in the snow planning mode, and just put geographically where you are in the country, we'd appreciate that. There we go. We got some great attendees on here today. I see we have some people from Richmond and some people west of Cleveland and some people from Canada. Thank you to our Canadian friends for joining us. And we have Colorado on here and Durham, North Carolina. It's a great place. You see, we have some of our clients are on here today listening. That's a positive thing. Always trying to further their education. Good, good. Lori, you're able to see the feedback from our attendees, okay?
I am.
Good, good, good. Excellent. We'll give it a few more minutes here. And so we're broadcasting live from Richmond, Virginia. For those people who did not attend our last week's show. Last week we talked about finding financial balance in your snow and ice control business. We talked a lot about sales and the different types of snow contracts that we're able to use and the flexibility of the different types of contracts. And this week we're sharing more of an operational mindset of how to build a strong operational infrastructure for your snow business. So a little bit different. We are also going to make these presentations, the presentation last week and the presentation this week, will be available starting this evening on a download link that we will send to all the attendees, and you'll be able to download these presentations also in voice on our YouTube channel and the actual visual presentations, the PowerPoints themselves, so that you can use them for training and helping building out your operational systems and processes within your company. Also, last week we asked some people, for some questions, and you guys provided us, or you contractors provided us with some questions. We've taken those questions. After we get some questions today, we will formulate a communication out to everybody and try to be more specific in answering those questions company by questions. We've had a few people contact us via email to ask us some specific questions. I will tell you that I have reached back out to you, and with a few of the people I have not gotten responses back. You're more than welcome to respond back to me, and I will certainly pick up the phone and talk to you on a one-on-one basis and either give you examples of contract examples that you wanted, or I will work with you and talk through your problems. So I want you to know that I'm very accessible, or reasonably accessible, I should say, these days, and I will do my best to accommodate you. We appreciate your time attending our snow clinic and spending time to listen to some of our experiences and my experiences as a snow contractor. So we're going to give it 5 more minutes here. It looks like our attendees are a little bit light today. 52 people signed up, 15 are on, which tells us what people? It tells us that people who actually are thinking snow aren't actually acting on snow. And most likely what happens in these situations is time management does not allow them to do it because they're very busy working in the business and not working on the business. And one of the things that we're going to be talking about today is really a mind focus of working on the business. And when you work on your business, there's no seasonality to it. There are ebbs and flows in the process throughout the year. But at the end of the day, you have to commit yourself to put the time into working on important strategic initiatives such as what we're talking about today with snow operations. Just because the plows might have been put on the truck and maybe they work and maybe you're getting things ready, the real heartbeat of the operation starts internally within the organization. So that said, do an official time check over here. It's 6 after the hour. I'm going to give it a few more minutes, folks, to 10 minutes after the hour. At 10 minutes, we start. And if people join us thereafter, that's fine. If not, we'll send out, again, that email for other people to join. Anybody hear any updates on the hurricane? Does anybody think in their markets they're going to be getting a hurricane and potential some income from some storm cleanup? Again, if you want to share those thoughts, you can just quickly type a quick note into the chat box. We're always interested to know what's happening in other markets. If you want to take a minute to do that, that'd be wonderful. Lori, anybody responding to that?
They are.
Good. What are they saying?
A lot of them are.
Getting ready?
Yep.
Good, good. That's good potential extra income that we want to go after, so that's good. What are some of the areas people are saying that they're going to get hit? I know we have a lot of people in the central and mid-Atlantic and northeast. What are they saying?
You're looking at New Jersey, Virginia, and North Carolina. They're definitely going to get it.
There you go. As much as getting revenue, we have to make sure we say our thoughts and prayers to everybody who's potentially affected by this. And again, preparedness is what's important. We've had enough notice that this storm has been brewing for quite some time since it started in the Caribbean. So everybody should be preparing between Friday and Saturday for potential hit sometime this weekend. So. Okay, I'm going to actually start. We have 15 people on out of the 52. It's 8 minutes after the hour. I understand everybody's time is important, so we're gonna get right into it. So today's presentation is our Snow and Ice Clinic, session number 2. We're going to be talking about building a strong management mindset for snow operation success. This presentation is going to be done with some storytelling, meaning I'm going to share a little bit of my history of how I started in the business and then it's going to end with some examples of my experiences with a large company that I ran doing snow removal, and we did in excess of $6 to $8 million in snow revenue on a good winter. I want to take a moment. Lori Gerker, who's on the phone, who I've been chatting with. Lori works for GreenMark. She handles all our IT and our digital marketing strategy, not only for GreenMark Consulting Group, but also for our clients. So she's involved with our SEO for our clients and driving business through search engine optimization and website development. So Lori, say hello to our guest today.
Hi, guys.
Good. And my partner, Bill Eastman, who's also Richmond-based. Bill's been working with GreenMark for about a year now. Bill is a process engineer. He works on business systemization and process improvement. Bill's instrumental in writing or working with me, I should say, on writing our landscape tool business kits, our tool kits, which are informative resource guides for landscapers and snow contractors, and our other media products we put out there called KnowledgeWare, which are essentially our ebooks and white papers. So, Bill, you want to take a minute and say hello to our guests? Maybe not. Maybe there's a technical problem. Bill, can you hear us today?
Is on. Let's try this again. Ah, that was my operator area.
Okay.
Era. Hey, thank you, Stephen.
Did you hear the introduction?
Oh yeah, I heard everything. I appreciate being on and everybody joining. I know how busy you are, and at this hour you're going to spend here is you're not working, and so I get that. We're all business owners ourselves, and so we. I guess the best way to describe it is we all eat our own dog food. If there's anything that we talk about here at GreenMark, it's because we practice it. So it's not something for somebody else.
Good analogy. Good analogy.
So with that, Stephen, I'm going to go back onto mute and let you roll, and if you need anything, just let me know.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so getting into our presentation, there's what we call some housekeeping items always. Oh, hold on, we have a little technical problem here. My screen's not sharing, so hold on a second. Okay, Lori, we have a technical problem where my screen is not advancing.
Click on the PowerPoint.
Click on the PowerPoint. Okay. I've done that. Hang tight, people. I apologize here. We'll fix this in a second. Okay, hang on one second, people. Apologize for the problem. Okay, Lori, can everybody see the screen now?
I sure can.
Okay, and our guests can see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, so just a brief introduction about GreenMark Consulting Group for those of you who have not sat in last week. We are a full-service landscape and snow industry consulting, coaching, and advisory firm. We're based in Richmond, Virginia, and we have clients throughout North America. Our furthest clients are in Canada, all the way to Turks and Caicos, and everywhere in between. Our philosophies within our company are very holistic. We feel that while there's a lot of similarities with problems within snow and landscape companies, we don't believe that a one-size-fit-all approach really applies to every company. So what we do in our practice is we go into the company where we engage in the company and we look at specific problems, where we listen to specific problems with our clients, and then we work with them to deliver strategic solutions through our engagement process. It's a very interactive process. And the idea is to get our clients to learn what the problems were so we can fix the problems from reoccurring again. If you're interested in learning about our services, our websites are shown in the bottom. GreenMark Consulting Group shares our consulting services. GreenMark Group Coaching shares our coaching services. And we put on a landscape business boot camp throughout the United States starting in October, mid to late October, all the way through March of next year in conjunction with landscape associations and freestanding events we do in different geographic areas, so we'd love to have you join. And again, we're having problems with advancing the screen. Sit tight, people. Lori, I'm not sure why I'm having a problem today.
You have to change the pointer back to an actual pointer from the pen.
Maybe pen. What happens when you hit page down? All right, take the pen off.
Hang tight, people. We apologize.
Normal, non-drawing mode. See what happens when you click.
Okay.
That's it. So if you go to pen,
Okay. So I apologize for that. I've been getting ahead of myself with our technology. We have two sponsors today. I want to give two thanks to our sponsors. Arthur J. Gallagher is one of our sponsors from last week. Arthur J. Gallagher is an insurance company. They're a national or nationwide company. Bill Webb, who represents their office in New Jersey. Arthur J. Gallagher provides snow and landscape contractor insurance and risk management evaluations for snow contractors. They take a very consultative approach in how they evaluate their customer relationships, and they will work with you to take a look at your existing insurance. They will discuss your insurance needs. They will do an audit to look at your potential risk with regards to claims in the past and look at how to mitigate claims for the future based on your operating procedures. Arthur J. Gallagher has been a very gracious host of our two presentations. Bill Webb's email is on the bottom of our presentation. We would encourage you to reach out to Bill. They are also very actively involved in the landscape associations up in New Jersey. Great group of guys, so we thank Arthur J. Gallagher and Bill Webb for sponsoring our event today. We have another special sponsor. This gentleman I've been doing business with for about 20 years. This is Ron Ekman. Ron is the president of De-Icing Depot. De-Icing Depot is a supplier of de-icing products throughout the United States. They also have gotten very actively involved in the last few years with liquid de-icing technology equipment. So anything from making brine solutions to anti-icing or de-icing equipment to pre-wetting equipment. They also have a full line of bag product and bulk product available. Ron serves companies throughout the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states, and he does a great job at it. And like I said, Ron and I have been working for many, many years. He's a very loyal partner, or has been a very loyal partner with me throughout my career. Ron's at deicingdepot.com. His phone number is on there. And if anybody has been to any of the shows, snow shows around the country, if you've been to the SEMA show, most likely you would have seen Ron there. Ron has graciously offered a free sidewalk spreader with about a $400 value for a raffle that we're going to be holding at the completion of this event today. We're going to be doing a drawing and we're going to choose one lucky winner for that spreader, and you will be able to get that delivered to you from De-icing Depot. Okay, so one of the things that we asked last week is we would like you to take a brief moment and just share with us from an operational standpoint, if you can just put into your chat box for Lori to record for our follow-up some of your pain points. So if you can list one pain point within your organization from an operational standpoint, if you can take a moment and do that, we would appreciate that. Lori will record those. Lori, why don't you let me know when you have those recorded, and then we'll kind of move on to the next screen.
Okay.
I want to remind, I see we have a few latecomers on here. For the few latecomers, thank you very much for joining us today. The presentation is being recorded because it is live, and we will make the presentation available to you in a download sometime this evening on our website. What kind of feedback are we getting today, Lori, as far as pain points?
Time tracking of employees, tracking of materials, client retention, not getting contracts back in a timely manner, organizing routes.
Good, some good stuff. So I want to preface a couple of things. When you're on this webinar today, we're not going to be able to give you all the answers that you're looking for. I would consider this to be a 10,000 foot overview of snow operations. From my experience, you'll be able to pick some things away from this that might or might not apply to your business. I always preface in my presentations two things that are very important. I call them housekeeping items, and that is, I've been in the landscaping industry for 40 years now, and while some people refer to me as a subject matter expert, I will tell you I'm a contractor in heart and in mind, just like you, meaning I've learned from success, I have learned from failure, and every single day I interact in my own business and with my clients, I learn something new. So learning is continuous. So the goal for today is to hopefully for you to take away one thing, one nugget of information from this presentation that it will be strategic to your organization and that you can apply. And what we can do thereafter, if there's something that you need help on the execution, there's ways for us to engage on that. If there's further clarification you need, again, you can question me on that through email. But with the pain points that you've pointed out today, as well as in our previous session, they have been noted. We know who they're coming from, and we're going to respond back to you within the next, I would say 3 to 5 days specifically, and give you some specific feedback on how we can possibly help you with that. So that said, I want to share with you a little bit of a story. And the story starts off with my humble beginnings. And here I am. This is really not, this is an illustrative picture of a friend of mine, but it represents my entry into the landscaping industry. And I sometimes will say landscaping, but a lot of contractors who do landscaping do snow, and a lot of snow contractors do landscaping, obviously. But essentially, I had a mentor, and I always looked up to my mentor, and someday I always wanted to be like him. It did turn out that I was like him in many ways, and he taught me a lot of things. So this kind of starts my humble beginnings. My first job, I started in the landscaping and snow industry in high school. It's been a long, great career, and I started off like many people. Most landscape owners are very creative people. They're often very craftsmen or technical people before business people, and they often start off at the smallest or the most medial jobs. And here I am watering some flowers in the garden, again illustratively. Here's my first plow truck. It's not really my first plow truck, but it really represents how I started. My first plow truck was not a brand new F550. It was a used 1976 Ford F250. It had a 7-foot Myers plow on it. I couldn't find a picture back in my history, but what I wanted to show you is that not everybody starts off with brand new equipment. Some people do start off with used equipment, and the quality of the equipment varies from contractor to contractor. My second plow truck, and this actually represents a little bit closer to my second plow truck, and here we see a 3500 series. But more importantly, what you see in this picture, this was actually taken in Connecticut. I was having breakfast with a client on a morning where we had a little bit of a dusting, and I'm sitting in the diner looking outside, and this gentleman from this landscape company, I'm not going to say it, but you can see it on the side of the truck, unfortunately, his spreader didn't work. And here he is. You can see the parking lots have a little bit of snow and a little bit of glaze on them, and he's outside, fooling around with his spreader, trying to get it work. And this is very representative of my experiences as a snow contractor. I've had spreaders that didn't work, and I remember I had a big account once. We did TWA's corporate headquarters in New York, and I remember standing on top of the spreader with a shovel as somebody was driving the truck, because the salt was and the sand was frozen in the truck, trying to shovel it out to get the parking lot covered. So these are real illustrations. These are real things that happen, and this is kind of what I'm trying to illustrate in this first part of the presentation. And then I thought I was like a hero. I thought I was like Rocky. I knew everything. This was taken probably about 8 or 10 years ago in front of the Philadelphia Museum. I was a member of SIMA, and I was trying to win, snow guru of the year. I don't know exactly what it was, so I made some fake snow. I went out in front of Rocky, and I put my stance on. When I lived in Philadelphia, I was a little bit more of an egotistic type person, a little bit more cocky than I am today. Now that I live in Richmond, I'm a little bit more toned down. At least I believe and thought. But, again, in snow removal, there are no heroes, and that's kind of the point I want to try to make, is that everything is achieved through teamwork and unity among the team. But, as I grew my business, I started off business when I was 16 years old, and as each step of the way I grew my business, I will tell you my headaches grew, okay? It didn't matter. But each step of the way, my headaches grew, and that was something that was difficult. But I had to learn how to deal with it. And again, a lot of contractors will realize that we're not in a very easy business. Sometimes it's a difficult business. So headaches are something that's prevalent. As my headaches grew, so did some of the challenges. This is an actual picture of a bad day for my company. This is one of my Ford F600s on fire up in New York on the side of one of the interstates. I can't tell you, I'm sorry, my GM, I should say. I can't tell you what started the fire, but the truck was totaled, obviously. This truck was on the way to a contract that we actually did not have. We actually were trying to bail out a shopping center owner whose contractor failed. And in that journey, I lost about a $30,000 truck in the process and created a lot of aggravation for myself. And last week's session, we talked a little bit about that, about taking on more than you can handle. And in this case, it was a bad day because I should have probably ended the day when everybody was tired and we completed all our work versus trying to drive to another job to save somebody. But again, these are real situations that occur. And how does this fit into this presentation is, all these things relate to operations in some way or another. So as we talk more about operations, one of the things is you have to learn. Every mistake that that occurs, whether it's a good experience or a bad experience, you have to learn from the experience itself. You have to take away something from it. I was just talking to some team members the other day, and we were talking about root cause analysis, and we were talking about really the mindset of when something doesn't go the way it should, we really need to stop and identify what happens, why it happens, and how are we going to fix it from reoccurring. And that's one of the things as we go through this presentation today. What I really want you to resonate in your mind is within your organization. I want you to ask yourself, are we really identifying, what happens and why it happens and how are we going to fix it? And are you really getting to the root cause and fixing it? And again, just to go back to last week's presentation, we talked about the difference between a good company and a great company. And the difference is the good company fixes the problem and the great company fixes the problem and then solves it from potentially recurring again. So that's very important. And again, I put emphasis on this continually because I think if there's anything that you can take away from this experience of this webinar and what I'm sharing with my knowledge is that you learn how to apply one or two nuggets strategically to your business. So, what I learned along the way was planning is critical. If you do not plan, the chances of you being successful are very, very difficult. There's a saying that you can only control the controllables. There are some things that you can't control. They are out of your control, but you will have a better chance of being successful if you spend time on planning. So the biggest thing that I learned, after a few years in my business and a few of these illustrative examples I gave you, is that planning is really critical. It really plays the success or the challenge or ultimately the failure within your organization. So this light bulb, went off in my head, and I had a thought process. And that thought process essentially was, what happens if we really thought about snow prior to the snow season? And what's interesting is a lot of people in mind think they're doing that, but a lot of people in execution really aren't. And what I mean by that is I'm on social media a lot, and I go to Facebook, and I'm on probably about 5 or 6 Facebook pages that have landscape and snow contractors on there, and I'm continually impressed with these small contractors and the volume of business they do and the quality of the equipment they have and the enthusiasm that is behind it. But I drilled down a little deeper, and I really asked myself, how great are their organizations? Are they really good as what they're trying to portray? And if they are, that's great, that's wonderful. They're doing everything that we try to teach and mentor our clients on. But I don't believe that everybody is really doing it. I believe a lot of people are looking at the superficial aspects of it. And the superficial aspects of it is, my plow's on, my plow works, my salter's on, my salter works. But what I'm talking more about, are we really doing the planning of what it takes to run a successful and a sustainable snow operation, not only internally but also externally? And in order for that to happen, that starts planning really in most markets in September, and by now in the first week of October, most companies within the Central, the Mid-Atlantic, the Midwest, the Northeast should really be fully engaged. Probably at least 40 to 50% of their time within their organization to some degree with their team should be talking about snow preparation. So the changeover, the changeover is, the leaves are still green. We're still cutting, grass. We're going to have a fall cleanups we're still going to be doing. So what's that changeover look like? How do we really transition a company, from green to white? So we have a series of questions that you have to ask yourself. And this is what we talked about last week, that a lot of what you do is self-evaluation, asking yourself the questions and saying, are we really, prepared to run and best manage our business, or are we not? So a few questions to ask yourself to make that transition from green to white. My equipment preparation or equipment needs, do I understand that? Okay, do I understand what is working, what's not working? Do I understand what we need to buy? Do I understand, what we need to fix? I kind of said that, but the bottom line is do we really understand what it takes to get the equipment ready for go time? The second thing is, do I have my customer renewals, or am I seeking new clients? Somebody typed into the chat box, getting snow contracts in. My goal has always been to have my snow contracts in by November 1st. My goal. When I was a contractor in Philadelphia, that was my goal. I would be lying if I didn't say I had contracts rolling in November and even early December. Because why? Because the property management companies or the asset managers or maybe the residential customers, they're not thinking about the changeover from green to white. They're in a totally different frame of mind. And this is where we talked about you setting the frame of mind for them to help expedite their commitment to you so you can expedite your commitment to them. Okay? So focusing on your customer renewals is very important. Next is my standard operating procedures. How will I run and manage my business in this winter? Okay, so what did you learn from last winter? The mistakes you learned from last winter, how are you fixing them for this winter? And for this winter itself, how are you going to run and manage your business? So what are your standard operating procedures for each facet of the business, and are they documented and transferable to people within your organization. If you're within a single branch or you're in multiple branches, the standard should be consistent throughout the organization. The next is my people. Do I have enough people? Do I have the people that I need? Some companies who use temporary labor, H-2B labor, they might be losing a sizable portion of their staff. So how do you supplement that staff? We have some people who in companies do not work in the wintertime for various reasons. We have some companies that will take on more work, snow work, than their landscape operations employ. So you have to ask yourself, do we have the people to support these operations? And the next thing that's very important is my cash flow. Do I have adequate cash flow to support the needs of my business? If we get back-to-back storms and we're on a weekly or bi-weekly payroll and we need to buy materials and buy fuel and buy parts, do we have adequate cash flow to support that, or lines of credit or financial needs to support that business so you don't hit a brick wall? And I'm going to tell you folks on this webinar today, I deal with companies, like I said, all different size companies throughout the country, companies as small as $350,000 to $20 million, and every one of these bullet points that I put up here, they all affect those companies, and they're good companies, and a couple of them are even great companies, but all these challenges affect their business because they haven't taken the time to really think about it. So these are very important things. Another big question we talked about last week is if it snows or if it doesn't snow. Is your business prepared to weather the ebbs and flows of the seasonality of our business? So that's very important. Okay, so the bottom line is while your crews are out doing maintenance, okay, and they're concluding the autumn maintenance, they're still doing some grass mowing, they're probably landscaping, they're doing some enhancements. At the end of the day, your key contributors in the organization, your operational managers, they should start leading the transition into thinking snow, okay? And one of the biggest things that we do as a company is we leave snow to the last minute, typically, to get into the proper operational mindset. One of the things that I used to do at one of the companies I managed is starting mid-September, we told all our managers their phones had to be on 24 hours a day. Okay, you never knew when you were going to get a snowstorm. It was more the operational mindset. We knew in Philadelphia we weren't going to get a snowfall in September. Potentially, you could get one maybe in October around Thanksgiving, like they did a few years ago. But we would require those managers to be on call, and we would actually call their phones at 3 o'clock in the morning and wake them up and say, just check in to make sure you're going to answer the telephone. Again, you work that out within your organization from a time standpoint, but again, mindset, organizational mindset, how people think, act, and deliver internally essentially affects your external operations. So having people in the right mindset is something that's very critical. Next thing is, this is very important, and people know this, but again, what you know and how you apply and execute are very often different. Snow, no different than landscape services, is a proactive service. It is not a reactive service, okay? You have to be prepared to react to the conditions that are before you at that moment. You can't tell a client, I will be there tomorrow. So being prepared is critical to your business. And I've been involved with clients who have run reactive businesses, whether it's snow or landscaping, and they've had operational challenges. And what we focus with them is, again, through the organizational mindset process, through strategic planning and preparation, we've converted these companies to be very proactive thinking companies and very proactive communicative companies, very customer-centric organizations. So this is very critical. And this is actually something, the snow is proactive. This is something you can actually make into a small poster and put around your company to get people to think about it. The number one killer of client relationships and frustrated employees is lack of preparation. I've been involved in situations where I've had organizations where I would get a call from a branch manager and be told that 12 or 15 guys quit, and they quit because they've been out in the snow all day and they didn't get a coffee break or they didn't get the ability to warm up. They were tired of working. They were frustrated. Okay? It's the same thing with customers. So the number one killer of client relationships is both frustrated employees and customers, and the driver of that is simply lack of preparation. It's simply all it is. So your capacity as a company, we talked about capacity last week, and I'm actually talking to some clients about this now. Your capacity as a company is ultimately what determines the success of your service delivery. If you oversell your work and you do not have the infrastructure to support that work, you're going to run into some operational challenges. And it goes back into the thought process of really how much is too much work, how much can you handle, and more importantly, how much can you really manage. So this is very important. So we talk about it. Here's some drop downs. How much revenue can you handle? If you're a company that's doing $350,000 in snow, and you said, hey, look, Stephen, I got an opportunity to take on 8 Walmart stores and 3 Kroger supermarkets and a corporate headquarters building. I'm all excited about it. What do you think? I would say probably not a good idea, but let's pull out the risk-reward scale and let's start thinking about, can we handle this revenue? And what are some of the drivers on that scale? Well, one of the drivers is, number one, do we have adequate systems and processes to manage the work? Okay, because the foundation that support great people are systems and processes. The next one is the people themselves. People. Do you have the right staffing capabilities in place? Just because you have people that work in landscaping does not mean you're going to have the right people working in snow. So you have to essentially get the right people on the right seat on the bus, as they say. Do you have the trucks, the equipment, and the loaders? I'm in multiple conversations with clients now. We're talking about, resources. What is the right resources to have for some of the projects that they're doing? They're taking on some new types of projects. What's the right equipment? What's the right production cycles for this equipment? Can we acquire the equipment through an acquisition? Do we have to lease the equipment or rent it? What are the terms and how do we pay for it? So these are very, very critical things to discuss on your risk and reward scale for your service delivery model. Do you have the material availability? Have you put out your RFPs for your material? Are you committed? If you have snow in the west, there's a good chance that the salt supplies and the bag material supplies in the east are going to get depleted because that material is getting shipped to the west if we're not having a lot of snow in the east, and vice versa. So you have to make sure that you align yourself with a good material supplier. So if you take on additional work, or even with the existing work that you have sufficient material to supply yourselves with. And the next one is can you meet the contract requirements and exceed your client's expectations? At the end of the day, okay, what the client wants to know is that you can perform to the expectation of the contract. That's what they want to know. What you need to do is exceed their expectations on that contract deliverable. And if you noticed, as I was listing out items 1 through 6, the house was being built on the left. And the house was being built from the footings up, not the roof line down. And this is something, folks, that I talk to my clients all the time. A lot of clients I have, a lot of landscape companies have been built by sales revenue. Okay, they've been built by opportunity. They've been built by the hard work of the owners who are great craftspeople, who are entrepreneurs and innovative. But there's a commonality there that usually lacks, and that is the foundation of that structure. The systems and the processes is to support this, and they usually hit a roadblock at some point, and that roadblock is their business has grown to a point where they don't know how to grow it again, or they have a catastrophic experience or failure within the organization. Sometimes it's as simple as they lose a contract and they wake up and say, why did we lose this contract? But the illustration is you have to build it from the footing up to the roof line. So asking yourself these questions are very important, and using that risk-reward scale is a great way of doing that. And that's a great way to synergize and build collaborative energy or synergy within your organization is to talk about ideas and put ideas out on the table and talk about the risks and reward. If we make this decision, how does it affect our company positively? If we make this decision, how does it affect our company negatively? And what is the risk in that? Most owners are risk takers. I'm a little bit more conservative myself these days, but this is something that you should work on. So here's a picture. This is the pictures on the right are from my friends at Schill Landscaping, a great company in Ohio. They're in the snow area in Cleveland, multi-branch company. And what I like about this picture is if you look at the trees, the leaves on the trees are green. You can see the trucks hooked up to the trailers, but they're working on snow. And they're like me. They start their snow services in September. Their snows could be in early October, and I'm sure somewhere historically they've had some September storms, I would think, in that snow area. But at the end of the day, they're preparing their snow equipment early, and they have a very huge operation. And the success of their operation hinges on the operational management structure that they've put in place, which is very similar to mine. I've actually went through my process with them a few years ago when we were doing a presentation in Ohio. I wanted to make sure that we were lining up our thought processes, and they said, Steve, you're right on the track with what we do. Okay. So here we go. You got to have sound leadership in your snow operations. You got to have a clear vision and priorities within your organization, and your team must be aligned and work within a cohesive manner. Meaning, no different than anything else within a landscape company, you have to have job descriptions for your snow operational positions. You have to have an organizational chart showing the hierarchy of communication. And everybody has to work as a team. We talk about the TEAM acronym, which stands for Together Everybody Achieves More. So this is one of the first most critical steps. The next critical step is you need to define management structure. Again, you have to have clearly defined roles, and you have to have accountable decision makers. So when you're developing these job descriptions and you're putting people or considering people for the positions, you have to make sure not only can they do the job, but when they're in the heat of the fire, are these the people that can make the decisions for you that are the right decisions, the best decisions? Not every decision is going to be perfect, but they have to make the best decisions. I'm sorry, not every decision is the best one, but they do have to take the chance to make a decision and think through it. I apologize. The next one is people. An array of talent is necessary for success, and put people in the right positions to succeed. So that's critical. We talked a little bit about that. And then you must have well-defined operational systems and processes. The idea is for external and superior service delivery. Your internal operations must work well to support your external operations. And Bill and I were talking about these bullets a little while ago. Bill, you want to step in for a minute here and just give the example that you shared with me about bullet 4 and 5?
Yes, Stephen. And this is what I propose to everybody. You don't have to write in the chat box. You can think about this question, and that is, let me give you two companies, and I'll give you two options. Company number one has no systems, no infrastructure whatsoever. So that last bullet, they really are not there. But the bullet previous to that, on the people side, they've got some of the best people you can find. And so that's one business. Now, let me create another business where they've got excellent processes and systems set up. However, all they have is average personnel and people doing the job. Now, if you were an investor, which company do you think will outperform the other? And I'll only give you a couple seconds on that because I think the answer is obvious. You can win the battle daily with average people and great systems and processes. Now, if you happen to have great systems and processes and you have great people, then you have that competitive advantage that some companies, and I'm sure you've encountered this, whether it's in the landscaping industry, in snow removal, in food stores, it doesn't matter. But there are companies out there where the people are the competitive advantage. And why is that? Well, one is they've got good people, but really the real answer is they got great people operating within great systems and processes, and that is where the competitive advantage is won or lost. Thanks, Stephen.
Good, thank you, Bill. I appreciate you chiming in on that. So Bill raised a very good point about that, and Bill and I interact with each other a lot when we talk about business systemization and processes with our clients, so that was a very, very good illustration. The next one is flexibility, and one of the things that you have to have within a snow operation, although you want to have systems and processes, it can't be rigid. You have to have flexibility because snow's an ever-changing environment, and it's unpredictable. So you have to have the flexibility to adapt to the conditions before you, and that's everything from the people to the processes to the equipment resources. So you have to be flexible throughout the storm. Okay, so we say here, this little illustration we came up with a few years ago, that snow planning and operations are both strategic, and what we recommend is you create a strategic document within your organization where you visually show everybody, the goals and how you want to achieve them. And in this illustration, we talk, about goals, the desired outcomes, the strategies, the measures and targets, and the results and the ultimate mission statement. This is all tied to benchmarking and different metric performances that you're going to use within the organization that all centers around the core mission of exceeding your client's expectations. So it's essentially, where do you want to go as a snow company, and how are you going to get there, and how are you going to measure the success of did you perform the best you could, and did we make the customer as happy as we could? And how did we do? What was our performance internally? How do we see our performance just as much as how did the customer see our performance? And most importantly, how we're going to improve our performance for the future. So this is a good illustration to demonstrate with your crew on the organizational mindset. And again, the ultimate goal is to create a value proposition that really exceeds your client's expectations. And folks, there's a lot of good snow contractors out there. Just because a parking lot looks clean and maybe it's got blacktop in it, it doesn't mean that that contractor did a good job, because there's a lot of things that you don't see that play a role in the success of that. And that is the post-storm service that's involved, and also the back-end internal operations with the communication to the client, the billing, and all that. So it's a full cycle. What we're illustrating here in this illustration is it is a full planning cycle. We often call this a closed loop, and the idea is to make sure that nothing falls through. So the next thing is we talk about planning, teamwork. So here I show a little illustration. This is a graphic illustration of a handbook that we have in our company, and we've used in previous companies that I've led and owned. And it's a snow removal handbook. It was our best management practices for our company, and it was basically our playbook. So we use this to educate and remind the team of our vision as a company, our mission as a company, and our values as a company as it related to snow. It didn't really change much between snow and landscape, but we wanted to reiterate it again before snow season. And we essentially created a snow playbook. And this snow playbook was no different than any other playbooks that companies should have. And example playbooks within a company are company handbooks, employment handbooks, company policies and procedures, standard operating procedures. These are in essence, how you run your company. You can't run your company by making all the time decisions that are on the split second or off the cuff. You have to have a playbook. The analogy is very simple. I'm not the sports fan, but in sports, there's always a play. There's either a playbook, there's a whiteboard on the field the coach is using, there's hand signals, there's different things that they're doing to lead the team to success. So creating a plan book is very important. Snow plans. Snow plans are imperative, and they don't have to be very sophisticated. So, the seasonal preparation is what's critical, and having a snow plan as very simple could work. So I just show a picture over here on the right side. I love showing this picture, but this is my daughter's snow plan a few years ago for a snowstorm. Okay, and basically, she wrote something on a piece of paper that she put on the refrigerator of how we were going to handle snow. And there's a picture of our driveway the next morning. And while you think, hey, is this guy kidding me? Is this really what happened? The reality of it is, my 7-year-old daughter put this together, and she actually worked with us as a family, and this is what we executed. And I have the blackest, cleanest driveway in the morning. When all my neighbors' driveways are covered with snow, mine is black. And the reason that happens is because we use preparativeness. We use a snow plan, and we follow it. So seasonal preparativeness is critical to your success of your operation. There's different phases within the snow operational paradigm, and that is the readiness phase. The readiness phase essentially is the initial phase of the operation, which is ready in time. In my organization, we were a 12-month landscape operation. We needed 8 hours to convert all our trucks, which were about 125 to 135 trucks, from a portion of them, not all of them, but a portion of them that had to get converted from landscape operations to snow. It was a 12-hour cycle. So the initial phase of the operation was getting everything ready ahead of time. Our sidewalk crew trucks would be loaded with equipment. Equipment would be make sure equipment would be fueled on the jobs. It would be started up and running. We would make sure that everything was ready to go when we got to the alert phase. And depending on the weather forecast and the current conditions, the alert phase is where your staff is mobilized strategically within their route on their property, and they're waiting for those first flakes to come. Then they go into the operational phase. Snow is falling. It's established the threshold in accordance with your contracts, and now you want to start plowing or shoveling or blowing your sidewalks, maybe doing salting, pre-salting or post-salting, whatever it is. A suspend operation phase doesn't happen often, but it does happen, and that's when the intensity of the snow is at a point where it's too risky to be involved in an operational mode. So you'll shut down those operations and go into a standby. So it's either the snow is falling too fast and it's difficult to keep up with because of visibility, so safety is a prime concern, or it's the conditions themselves are just adverse to be on the road at that moment because of that snow intensity. You're going to shut it down. Ideally, when you shut it down, you're going to be on the property. You're just going to go into a standby mode and get ready to begin as soon as conditions prevail. The recovery phase, this is the phase when you're winding down your snow operations. Some trucks are finishing up sites. They might be getting dispatched to other sites to help clean up on other sites. This is where you're tucking corners. You're making sure that no handicap spots are blocked or there's slush at drop curves. You're making sure that fire hydrants are open. You're making sure while that's happening, you're making sure that any salting that has to continue, maybe some refreezes that occurred, between that 3 o'clock in the morning and that 6, 7 o'clock time frame is being dealt with. You might start, getting your equipment refueled. In my company, we had a fuel truck would come around towards the end of the recovery phase, beginning of the recovery phase, and start refueling trucks. Your salt piles might start getting repiled or tucked and retarked, and you're cleaning up all your paper, plastic bags from the salt bags or the calcium bags, and you're observing how the property looks essentially. And then you have your post-storm phase. Your post-storm phase is when you're getting ready for the next phase. So you're replenishing all your equipment. You're preparing your crews for the ice watch for the next morning. Your operation teams are performing an evaluation, an assessment of what worked well in that storm and what didn't work well at all. And you're preparing yourself for a next event, especially if that event is coming up. We're coming up on the 3 o'clock hour. We're going to run a little bit long here. I appreciate everybody sticking by us. I'll move it along. So I'm going to provide here a brief overview of a sample snow planning timeline. Again, we will make this available in our video download on YouTube and in our download on our landing page. But this was the timeline that I used for a company that I managed up in Philadelphia. And we were a $20 million company with substantial snow operations. But here you can see we started August 1st. We started talking about equipment and sales talks. I kind of go into which employees were involved, the topics. Then we had, these happened bi-weekly. And August 15th, we went into our pre-snow meeting. You can see who's involved in the topics. September, we're having our first pre-snow meeting. You can see who's involved and the topics discussed there. We go into our pre-snow meeting September 15th, and you can see in some of these instances the team is staying the same, and as we go on, some new team members are coming in, and you can see the transition. We're going from a planning stage more now into a programming stage, essentially, based on the topics, that are being discussed. Now we're in October. Now you can see what's starting to happen. The attendance list is starting to grow. The topics now are starting to get more finalized. We're moving, really more ratifying our company plan in case it starts to snow. October 1st through the 15th, we're having a company-wide snow meeting and a training day. Everybody's involved in that, and you can see the topics that we're talking about in that. A lot of times in this company-wide snow meeting, sometimes we have our service providers also present. We go into October 1st and 15th. Here we had a snow provider, a service provider luncheon. So we would give them our service provider handbook. We would talk about the standard operating procedures, the check-in procedures that they had to do, the billing procedures, how they had to deliver the bill to us and when, questions and answers. It was a camaraderie type event where we empowered them to really understand our values and expectations because they were an extension of our company. And then October 15th until completed target date. My completed target date in the Philadelphia region was November 1st. We're ready now in operation mode. 75% of our equipment is ready to switch over, within that 8-hour period. All our sites have been staged for material. Everything is ready to go. If it snowed, anytime between this October 15th, November 1st, we were really ready to go. And what you have to remember, just like with the different types of snow contracts we discussed last week, these timelines vary depending on the regions that you're in. So I've kind of put on the bottom here, what those timelines are. Here's a sample of a snowplow route. This was done on whiteboards. This was done in all our planning. Started off with a route, and you can see that we had crew leaders and route managers. We will list out our sites on here if we had subcontractors. But this was the hub of our planning. This was done in whiteboard planning and also on our Excel spreadsheets. But it was a very visual operation that we would start. It would give people the big picture and help us really get the puzzle together. And in this organization, it started off in paper, and then it went to a technology platform. So whether you're using paper or technology, again, having control of your snow operations by routes and dedicated people and areas of responsibility within the organization, you get to see how you can move people around are critical. So, and we have this again available for everybody. Here's a sample snow response plan. Every one of our properties had to have a snow response plan. This was part of a route manager's binder. So within that binder, whatever customer accounts he had in there, he had a response plan within that binder. The response plan showed him, what equipment he needed for the job, his production cycle times for that job. Excuse me. And he had his salt quantities for that job, his calcium quantities for that job. It had specific site notes that came from the contract or were discussed through the sales cycle or the pre-season discussions with the property manager. This example was a 24-hour medical facility, so it said very clearly that it was zero tolerance. So you started salting, whenever you had to. It was already pre-approved, and the parking lot had to be cleaned by 5. You can see in the picture, the blue designates the parking areas, the light green is the walkways, and the circles designate where snow is allowed to be piled, and it has all the people's contact information. So all this was readily available in the snow binder, which somebody can pick up and look at, and it was also available on the tablet format for them to look at also. Another big thing is documentation. Again, some companies document today using technology. At this time, we were using a manual timesheet. But again, we will share this timesheet with you. But there's good information in here that help document what activities took place on a site and when they took place. And documents key. If you're involved with SEMA or with the Accredited Snow Contractors Association, there's certain standards that apply to our industry. So, some of the standards that I put on here are pre-season site inspections, having an adequate site response plan, pre-event documentation, in-event documentation, which is essentially your timesheet. You want to signify, your arrival time on the property, your site conditions. If there are changing conditions on the property, what are those changing conditions? The services that you performed. Post-event monitoring. So if you have ice watches that are going to get performed the following morning, you want to make sure those are documented. Post-event conditions. What's the parking lot look like when you leave after the storm or within 24 hours? You want to review your certified weather reports. You want to make sure that the information that's being provided to you by companies such as WeatherWorks are in alignment, meaning if they say that your certified snowfall is 6 inches for your region, you want to make sure that if it says somewhere close to 6 inches, not 10 inches. Storm documentation review, you want to get all that paperwork intake into your internal operations, and you want your administrators or whoever handles your billing preparation to review it to make sure that all your timesheets, your worksheets for the job site correlate with your employees' timesheets, and then you want to get out to billing your client. There's a saying that we use at GreenMark, and that is effective systems and processes equal predictable outcomes. These pictures were taken right after back-to-back blizzards in Pennsylvania in the winters of 2010 and 2009, 2010. These were literally taken the next morning before 10 o'clock. Everybody was pretty much shut down, meaning the offices were closed. This was a weekday. But you can see that in the company that I was leading, the end result, here you have a condominium. You can see that the driveways are clear, everything is wet, the sun's coming out now, it's burning off. The parking lot's wet over here, and whatever slush is remaining is starting to come off. And I will tell you, prior to me starting at this company, this was not the results of our performance. It was a lot worse than this. So my team, our team as a company, all came together collectively over a period of time to really build an exceptional snow system process. So again, going back to 2009, 2010, over 70 inches of snow in Philadelphia. Here's a picture. This is not a Photoshop picture. This is a picture of our corporate headquarters. We had 4 branch locations. This is a picture of our trucks in our corporate location. We were a huge user of Meyer plows at that time. But these revenues during that year exceeded $5 million. And I went back actually and looked in 2008, we ranked as the 24th largest private snow removal contractor in Snow Business Magazine, if I recall. We employed over 200 drivers to operate our equipment. We had 6 mechanics that ran 3 shifts. We self-performed 75% of our work. We serviced over 5 million square feet of pavement and sidewalks. We owned over 75 company-owned trucks that operated at our company, a corporate location. Our branches typically had another 12 to 15 trucks. We owned over 25 skid steers. We had over 15 company loaders, and we rented about 25 pieces of equipment. I'm not showing this to show off. What I'm showing you is that it was a monumental task to put this together, and it took me 2 years. So when I joined this company, the snow was very chaotic. I worked very hard. Our team worked harder than they needed to work because of lack of systems and processes and organizational mindset. And with the illustrations and some of the processes that I've shown you today, within a 2-year time, we built a top-notch snow company that we all worked very hard at, but the operations ran seamlessly, and the end results were very good, and we had excellent client retention. So a lot of what I showed you here is actual practical knowledge that you can take away from this presentation and apply in some form to your business. I want to add a little bit of humor into our ending of our presentation, and that is you have to know who you're dealing with snow, because there's a lot of different personality types. So we've identified the different personality types of snow people. And we start off with, last week we talked about shovelers and shoveling being the nemesis of our industry. So we have what we call the mediocre shoveler, and the mediocre shoveler understands the need for shoveling. He doesn't procrastinate, but he really doesn't do a good job. So this is the guy who doesn't shovel from edge to edge, leave snow, throw snow out after the plow truck just came through and cleaned the curb line. He's probably a guy who needs training. He's probably a good team member, but he needs to understand, how to remove snow better. So we call him the mediocre snow shoveler. The incrementalist, we know what these people are. So, they basically, come in, come out type of people. They shovel as the storm rages on because they think it's easier, to do it all at the end. So they really don't keep up with the storm the best way. They just, they'll, like I said, they'll come and go on you. You never know where they're at. The libertarian, there's no rules for the libertarian. You give them all the directions you want to give them, and they're probably not going to listen to you. So the idea is with the libertarian, probably don't hire them. Angry snowplowers. I used to be one of these, and I'm sure you know what the angry snowplower is. So this is the guy who's been plowing snow for 15 to 24 hours, and I guarantee you there's nothing you're going to say or do that's going to make him happy. He just wants to get home at this time. So the boxer, if you ask the boxer, if you ask the boxer, snowplow drivers have one mission and one mission only, and that is to make your job difficult. They just want to plow snow. They don't want to do anything else. They typically don't get out of the truck and pitch in. And if you shoveled something in their way, they're probably going to blow it back onto your sidewalk or where you just cleared. So you want to work with the snowplow driver. The boxer and the snowplow driver must work integrally together. The perfectionist, this is who you want to hire. You want to hire guys that when they're done, there's not a single snowflake left on the ground, because what they do very well. Not a lot of perfectionists. The procrastinator believes that despite the weather forecast calling for a deep freeze, after the snowstorm, that may be the sun will come out and just enough snow will melt the snow. And I saw on our screen here a little bit earlier that we have one or two guests here from the Richmond area. And in Richmond, where we live, the property managers here are procrastinators. Okay, they're very hesitant on spending money on salting, because if the weather's going to get above 32 degrees and there's only 2 inches of snow or 3 inches of snow in the forecast, they'll say, you know what, maybe we'll hold off on it. Let's see what the weather does tomorrow. The snow angel, the winter lover who can't control himself when it snows. It's probably every one of us that are on this webinar today. We love snow. We're getting psyched up. We're waiting for the winter to bring the revenue for us to help us get through into a successful spring. So the idea with the snow angel is to build out good systems and processes to support his love or her love for snow. The child laborer is good, cheap labor. I like the child labor. I typically do not use child labor on my commercial sites or recommend my clients to use them. The reason is you can often bribe or threaten the child laborer, and you really don't want to do that with your traditional person. But in the child labor environment, my daughter over here, she works for Barbie dolls. So you can see her out here happy cleaning the sidewalk. She's considered child labor. But on a serious note, the biggest challenges that we have is lack of quality employees in the snow operations. Finding people who really are going to go out there and work the hours. It's difficult work in difficult conditions. And finding great people to do that work is a challenge. So what you want to do is you really want to inspire the people that work for you to buy into the vision of the organization, the values, and you want them to share that with others. And essentially, what we recommend is really starting recruiting your seasonal labor early as August, And we also require talking to your existing team members as early as August to make sure that they're going to work with you, throughout the winter. The easiest way to recruit is through your existing employee base. Incentivize people to bring new employees, maybe some sort of bonus structure. If you bring somebody and he makes it through the winter, he gets a $50 or $100 bonus. I found that to be a great way to recruit. Recruit from outside the industry. I've always used people who, a lot of times can't run trucks in the wintertime or do excavation in the wintertime. So, people in outside industries, service industries, construction, manufacturing, excuse me, all make good seasonal people to work for you. Offer incentives for recruitment, I mentioned that. That's a multi-tiered type of thing, meaning you can offer incentives not only internally, you can offer incentives externally to get people to come work with me, meaning sign-on bonuses. Offer incentives for tenure and performance. If a guy's going to last the whole winter, there's a bonus. If a guy's going to do a great job and manage the job, within the financial metrics, maybe there's a performance benefit there for him. Offer incentives for shift differentials. This is becoming a little bit more popular now when you have guys who are working all day or all weekend, maybe, something from 6 p.m. at night to 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. in the morning. Maybe there's a shift differential pay for them. Some companies are moving towards that. You have to keep the pay competitive. What I'm seeing is in most markets, the labor rate and the demands for labor are becoming so tight now that people are offering anywhere between $18 to $20 an hour plus for just shovelers. So you're going to need to figure out how to keep competitive, and maybe you're going to have to increase your hand labor rates to reflect that, or maybe you'll just take on jobs that don't do sidewalks. Showcase what you have to offer. If you're a great snow company, you have steady work, you have good equipment, you offer your crews good winter gear, you take care of your people, it's a great incentive to have people come work for you. And what you'll find, like in any business, if you build a good employee base and you take care of your people, you treat them well, just like you want to be treated, they'll return for you year after year. I bumped into a gentleman the other day who I never met before, and he came in smiling to one of my client companies, and he said he's a snow service provider, and I started a conversation, and he was starting to work on his truck and started asking me when the first storm is, and I said, how long have you worked for the company? He says, this is my 3rd year working for the company, and I can't wait to come back. I love working for them. So that was a great introduction to that individual. Delivering excellence. So delivering excellence is 2 parts. There's a process quality part, and that's how you build a solution that you promise to the customer during the initial sales cycle. And we talked about that last week in the value proposition to the client, not over-promising, but meeting the contract deliverables, and then you exceed their expectations through the delivered quality of the delivery cycle. So deliver, promise the customer what they expect, and then exceed their expectations. Bill, I'm going to have you jump in here to close this out here. You want to talk a little bit about the gaps, beware of gaps here?
Yeah, go ahead and click through to right there. Okay, sure. Well, I'll do the whole thing. And basically what we've got here is we listed both the cause and effect on customer service or customer experience. So if you look down to the second to last item, customer experience, view that as the initial gap. In other words, if what you promised has been delivered, and when I say promise is delivered, on time, on budget, and also the experience that they have working with you, if you've met those expectations, everything else is all right. But what happens is you don't, and it's almost impossible in any business, given the number of incidences that you have with customers or events that you have, moments of truth, we call it, to be 100% perfect. It's just not there. Now, what's interesting about that as I talk about the other items is this. Just like I did with the 2 businesses, let me create 2 different companies. One company has 100% guaranteed not a guarantee, 100% service delivery reputation. Every time you do business with them, they've done everything they promised. Company 2 has, let's say, about a 96. But on the 4% of the time that they don't, they recover in a way that you feel like you won. Now, you take those two companies, who do you think has a better service reputation in the market? You would think it's number one. It isn't. Because people don't believe that you're a great service company until you deliver on it. And when you make a mistake, how do you handle the mistake? So I'm not advocating making mistakes, because you can lose customers and it becomes unprofitable. But the deal becomes is how do you deal with it? Now, if you're not meeting customer expectations, there's 4 places to look. And by the way, we got a tool for this, a fairly extensive tool of how to look at your whole customer service experience. If you fail to deliver on this, one could be insufficient customer knowledge. Now, that either could be kind of market-based in terms of what's going on in the business in their world that's affecting them, or it could be that the requirements from the contract, the specifications, have not been passed down to whoever's doing the delivery. Number 2 is leadership and management. The people in charge are simply not doing their jobs, and they're not making the delivery on promise a priority with their people. The third one is operational performance, and that is basically people doing the job. Are they competent for doing the job? Do they want to do the job? And so, for example, Stephen demonstrated a couple different places where you have a snow manual or a set of standard operating principles. Are those there, and are they performing them? And then the last one is setting expectations. Setting expectations starts from the first time they hear about your company. How are you marketing? How are you selling? And then what happens at the conclusion of the contract? Okay, now we're going to do that. So what I want to say about this is that focus on the customer's experience. If somehow they're unhappy, take heart that you can turn that around with a great recovery strategy. But then after you've done that, let's take a look at it, and there's 4 reasons why you haven't done it. We don't have enough knowledge, we're not being led in management correctly, the performance of people on the job is wrong, or we set the wrong expectations. And then where that'll get you is to become the customer's trusted advisor. That's how I get the top of mind. That's how when a customer thinks about something that I do as a business, that it's my business to lose, they think of nobody else but me.
Very good, very good. Thank you, Bill, for the explanation.
Thanks, Steve.
So, oh, you're welcome. So, just closing a couple of things out. We're not high-pressure salespeople here. I just want to tell you a couple of ways we can interact with folks that are on these webinars. So, we do we offer anybody who's on these webinars a free 1-hour consultation. You can get on the phone with us. It's a get-to-know, what we call discovery call. You can tell us about what your pain points in your organization are. We can share a little bit about our knowledge, and we can talk to you about our organizational assessment process. This is a process where we come into your organization, we evaluate the operational gaps within your business, not only in snow landscaping, but the whole entire company, and we do that very, like I said, very holistically in a very defined process. And essentially, we help you roadmap the solutions over a 30, 60, 90-day immediate goals, and then strategically over a 3 to 18-month process, and how to build a better sustainable business. So this 1-hour consultation is being offered for anybody who wants it. You can go to our website, you can send me an email, we can get this set up, and if you sign up for one of our organizational assessments, you'll receive a 15% discount. The other way is we've designed a very, very affordable coaching platform for people to work with. And I have multiple clients on this platform, and one of them actually is on here today. He's a great testimonial for us. His name is Corey Rantos, and Corey is a landscape contractor in North Carolina, and Corey's on our peak performance package. And Corey really engages with us a lot and asks us a lot of questions. And Corey has grown his business substantially this year, not only in revenue, but in organizational mindset, and now we're focusing on operational performance. So we offer a jumpstart package, a business growth package, and a peak performance package. Based on anybody who's on this webinar, if you want to sign up by one of these, we're going to extend this offer through the end of the month. You sign up for a 6-month subscription, you'll get 1 month free, and your price will be as low as $82.25 a month $253.95 a month and $425.95 a month. And if you go to our GreenMark Group website, GreenMarkGroupCoaching.com website, you'll see what is included in these packages. These are very interactive processes, packages where you could call us up, you can ask us questions, you will have access to toolkits and resources, you can email us problems, you can get on a Skype call with us. We have multiple clients who are on this platform. They love it. Basically, you don't have to go home and share a bad day with your wife or go on with an unanswered question or read something that might not apply. You can discuss the problem with us, and we will help you work through towards a solution. And we have several great clients that we could reference, have references for you. Like I said, Corey Yargo from Rantos Maintenance is one of our best coaching clients and really maximizes it. Questions and answers. If you have questions and answers, I'm going to leave the screen live for a couple of minutes. If you could just type your questions and answers into your chat box, they will get recorded by Lori. Lori will forward them to us, and we will respond back in detail with you. You can also go to the GreenMark Group website, go to the resource page. You could directly contact us with your questions, or if you want to set up the discovery calls. Our websites are up here. We thank everybody for their time. We know we ran a little bit over again, but hopefully you picked up a couple of nuggets of information today that will be beneficial to your business, and we wish everybody a successful snow season and a very successful balance of the week. Thank you, Lori, thank you, Bill, and thank you to all our attendees for joining us today, and we look forward to helping you grow your landscape business. Thank you.